Hello, everyone. First, I want to say I am honored to be asked to ask you questions about this show. For those of you who don't know, Richard Lewis has been a mentor of mine when it comes to painting. He's the person that taught me how to paint in oils. So for me, it's always incredible to see what's new and what you've done and how you process, essentially what's going on in the world and what's going on in your mind. So I'll start off with a question that I've already prepped you for that we already talked about. So in looking at the title of the exhibition and the statement of the show, the show says that these works don't really rely heavy on symbolism, but I think there is something inherently symbolic in these portraits. Can you talk to us a little bit about the Nkisi figure, what that is, because some people might not even know what the Nkisi is, and its connection to some of the portraits?
All right. I thought about that, and all of these portraits, in a way, are Nkisis. And Nkisi is a spiritual figure that intercedes between us and the spirit world. And I interpreted the Nkisi in a lot of ways as something that enriches our lives, that gives us what we need, what we want, and I mean, I see it that way. So in some ways, Audre Lorde, who is the closest that I actually come to in Nkisi, which is right over here, she was an activist. She was civil rights activist, but she was also a gay activist too. And she, so having said both of those things, she's someone who sees you, who validates you, who, just really, embraces your reality in a way that people may not do usually. So she's very important. So she has a very just a beautiful voice and a beautiful way of defining people. So people rush to her. Same way Malcolm X did. Malcolm X was someone who saw our reality as James Baldwin said, he corroborates our reality, so it's, these people function as Nkisis. They don't, by corroborating your reality, I'm sorry, I'm like,
No.
But, it's like that. So anyone who does that did it back then, who does that now today, they function as Nkisis as far as I'm concerned. So there's another one of that actually didn't make it up in the show. It'll make it up in another show one day. It's Coco Taylor. So Coco Taylor's a blues singer who also corroborates your reality, so very important. Amiri Baraka, I'm looking at him back then. He was one of my greatest heroes. He's someone who, however ugly, we really need him now today. However ugly things got politically, he could answer it with such force and creativity, that the same way that Malcolm did. But Amiri Baraka was a real poet, so. And You know, you can see it in Asada Shakur. You can see it in, and I think you can even see it in real boxers. You know, because these portraits began as what I called them boxing portraits because of what black people were going through. I saw them going through the same brutality that boxers went through, you know. And Sonny Liston here was someone who was, you know, started boxing when he was in prison. And if you know anything about his career, he was just really dogged from the beginning of it to the end. And even though most people look at, you know, like Muhammad Ali as quintessential blackness, I think a lot of us as black people live lives more closely to Sonny Liston and Joe Frazier than Muhammad Ali. We love Muhammad Ali because he won. He was, you know, articulate, he was funny, he was charming, and he won all the time. But a lot of our lives were Joe Frazier's lives. You know?
Coming from a sharecropper family.
Yeah, oppressed from the beginning, you know. And Sonny Liston too, you know. So
it's interesting because I also think about you as like a spiritual guidance or shaman, right? When you have the Nkisi figure, it's the whole debate of promises, right? So you're almost acting as the functioning factor in the Nkisi, the function between the viewer and yourself, right? The portraits kind of become that space.
It's better that I don't know that. It's better if I just,
I like that.
I mean, I do the drawings.
Right.
I try and do them as well as I can.
Right.
But I don't, you know, it's better if I don't think of it as I am this exalted person.
Yeah, yeah. But also, you know, another question I have, right? Because as we look at the drawings and the portraits that you have, right, it's very specific to a certain period of time, right? You have figures from probably like the 1930s, or maybe all the way up until maybe the 70s, right?
Yeah.
But it's a direct reference to, I think, a certain kind of activism that we saw in the individual that was like holding a mirror up to society in a very revolutionary way, right? So I want to ask, like, how do you see them functioning? And as you created these works, I'm sure you were looking at, you know, all the crazy stuff that's happening in society right now, but how were you thinking as you were making them?
I always loved history. You know, I mean, I grew up in the time, like in the 70s, and we were really, you know, we were really all about history then. If you were coming out of the 60s, out of the civil rights movement, and had gone through this period of assassinations, and then what do we do next? You know, but we went really deep into history, and everybody seemed to be into it, you know. So, I mean, I went to a Catholic school, and even these nuns were interested in Black history, you know. The seminary where they taught the priests during the riots, Black people painted Mother Mary black. And the janitor staff painted her back white, and then the leader of the seminary ordered them to paint it black again, because now we're going to relate to, you know, the community that we're in. And just the year after that, the school I went to, which was St. Cecilia, had a artist named Devon Cunningham to paint the first black Jesus over its altar. So these things were happening, and then of course, commercially Roots came out, and we were talking about these things. We were talking about slavery, we were talking about just history, I mean, even me as a kid, there was I'm just remembering a book called Black Folk Tales, which was illustrated by an artist named Tom Feelings. I think he's the same person who did Stevie Wonder's Inner Visions.
Yeah.
But he did that book, and it gave me a vision of what Stagger Lee looked like, all these black characters. Stagger Lee, there was High John the Conqueror, and Jack and the Devil's Daughter. I remember these stories now, and and I thought, wow, this is normal, to be so into your own culture, that this was, of course, everybody does this. So that had a heavy influence on me. I mean, that's how it was back then. So that's how I got so into history, and I never got out of it, thank goodness. And then that led me into my high school years and college years, and the historical figures were all like revolutionary, especially compared to as they are, to what we have now.
Exactly.
So, Martin Luther King, I mean, I'm looking at these people. Actually, it's my fault. I misnamed Conte Cullen as Claude McKay, but, both were important,
Mislabeled?
I mislabeled it. I'm telling you that.
It's my job to
And then
research
there's
and catch
Malcolm, then there's Malcolm X, and these are like, and I chose Malcolm X. There's two Malcolm X's. There's one who is Malcolm X as in Nkisi.
It's in the case.
It's in the case.
Okay, yeah.
And then this Malcolm X as a prisoner. And it's like being seen. Like I was going back and forth on whether I should include. There's this famous writer from back then who's very popular with prisoners. His name is Donald Goines. If you remember him. The thing is that even if you don't approve of what he wrote, because he was writing mostly about prison life, and he was, sometimes high when he wrote it, But he's someone who, because of what he wrote, he was like an Nkisi to me because he saw the people that other people ignored. The same way Malcolm was when he right after he got out of prison.
Yep.
He became, part of the Nation of Islam, and they ushered a lot of people who were in jail into a life that was better than what they had before. So he was an Nkisi to me. Both of them were.
All right, so I got a artist question, a making question.
Okay.
Knowing how long your paintings take, or hearing you speak about this in previous interviews, these drawings have a fluidity within them that read with a certain quick speed, and the way in which they are made. I think about an artist like John Singer Sargent, an artist who we both love, whose paintings look effortless, right?
Yeah.
But knowing that he actually painted over several times a lot of his work. So they look, the paintings that John Singer Sargent made, right, look like they kind of just happened, right? In this level of mastery. But a lot of times they took a really long time. Can you talk about the level of mastery it takes to achieve this, which I consider you a master at,
Okay.
and how arduous or easy your process is?
It's not that arduous because I take as much time as I want to finish what I want to finish. Not that easy because the rest of the world wants to move faster than I do. But that's fine, it's fine. The world lives with me, I live with them, so we're okay, we're at peace. I guess he does make it look easy. It's not, it's not always what I'm looking for, but I think the mastery part comes from, looking at other work that's truly great, I was lucky enough to have the DIA when I was a kid. We took trips there. And then growing up, going through high school, going to CCS, that was great, But, and then after I went to grad school, I went to New York and I worked in the museum. And
Which museum?
Metropolitan Museum of Art. So it was my job. That was just a great time to be paid a salary to stand around some of the greatest paintings in the world, and not just the paintings, not just the Western paintings, which were gorgeous, but to look at African sculpture, and then, and I'm talking about, I'm thinking directly of Congo sculpture that has, tar, maybe blood, kaolin, which is this white powder stuff. You have that around the mouth, and the way they construct a figure or face, was incredible. And so you have all these things pouring into you while you're working, so it was, greatness is when you have all of these things that you can draw from and you can put into your work, and where it's not just what I did when I was younger, when I was in illustration, where I would render surfaces. It was better when I was, it got better when I really got into it, that I could draw from African art, I can draw from Chinese art, the Buddhas. I could draw from, American painting, and there were a lot of great American painters.
I do, if I could, I would say that the Sargent reference for me is, I didn't see it at first, now I've seen it, because he's got that looseness of brushstroke, and I see it here everywhere. It's like, but the works are so complete. They're so complete,
as
just like him.
Looking at American art, I wasn't really that into Sargent. I liked him. I liked him. I loved his watercolors. I loved that, but there was, there was the African American painter Joshua Johnston, and who's the Copley. I love Copley. These these people that you can just really draw from.
Yeah, I know Chardin is a big influence for sure. But thinking about too, all of these are gouache or watercolor, right? And I tell people all the time, that's probably the most difficult material. It's the first material you learn as a kid, right? To kind of play around with. But as you get older, you realize this is the most difficult material to work with. And all of these are done in the most difficult material to work with in such capacity. So my question, why gouache and watercolor? for these pieces in particular?
Because it was easy. They were there.
See, he says it's easy
There.
because it was easy.
It's ink and gouache. And it's like you can go from white to middle values to dark. And it's just, it's fast and it's direct. Drawing is the most direct language coming from your brain straight to the paper,
And I feel like that's really important for these works, right? Like that they're done in gouache and watercolor, because there is a certain kind of directness to them that you wanted to get out like immediately, right? Versus the slowness of oil, right? The time, and not saying that you can't do it, because I know you can, but I'm just talking about the concept of like going from the brain to the hand and that material giving you that function.
Yeah, I mean, I love drawing because it's so direct. It's so bold and so direct. But, any of these can be faster mediums, like you and Rennie, Stefan, you two are like just incredibly fast with what you do. I mean, you're both masters, but you're incredibly fast. And you can go faster if you want. You can, make really thick, rich paintings if you want. You can go like who's the British guy who was. Are
you talking about JMW Turner?
No.
Lucian Freud.
No, he was a friend of Lucian Freud. Auerbach.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, super thick, super rich, super fast, super direct. You can work that way if you want. And with these, I was looking at, who was I looking at? I was looking at Jacques-Louis David. They had a show a few years ago of what they call his Radical Draftsman show, and
they just had a show last year at the Louvre of Jacques-Louis David, like a huge show. Yeah.
And he had this section where it's all his friends who were all being arrested, and it was just ink washes with white gouache, and they were all so gorgeous. Sometimes more, to me, more gorgeous than his oil paintings, because sometimes that direct, action of drawing can be more compelling to me than oil paint.
Yeah, and I feel that from the works. I feel the sense of like a need to get these out. I have to make these and I have to get them done.
Yes.
And also thinking about the title of the exhibition, the price of the ticket, to me feels perfect, right? I feel like it encapsulates what the works are about, the time we're in now, also the price of being black in this country. And the use of bruising, prison photos, and boxing to represent the revolutionary figures you have made pieces of. Can you speak more about the boxing analogy and the physical scars we see in the drawing as it relates to these figures' everyday experiences?
They started off as, the price of the ticket comes from a book that James Baldwin wrote. It's nonfiction work. And it's, really powerful what he included. That he was talking about movies, he was talking about his early childhood and everything. And the price of the ticket is the price we pay for living, really, literally. Let's see. Just refresh me again.
So really thinking about, because you see a lot of the bruises, a lot of people that were
This whole series started as me doing portraits of writers, and comparing them to boxers because black people there were black writers who seemed to have been erased or were in the process of being erased, like now, you know. And then it was easy, you know, horrifyingly easy to find pictures like the one of Ralph Ellison back there with a big bandage on his head. And the picture of Amiri Baraka right before the Newark riot, where he was, or right about the time of the Newark riot, when he was beaten by the police. And so, you know, you see us being brutalized, and it's like nothing brand new. It's nothing that I invented, you know. It's just like we've been living this way for a long time, and it's, you know, along with, you know, the way people seem to be able to ignore that, you know. I mean, we know what that's like. So people are shocked that, oh wow, this is really happening. Yeah, because it's been happening, you know, like that recurring theme back when that horrible thing happened in Minnesota. They said, we've never seen the country like this before, you know. And of course, yeah, you've seen it every day if you had just looked. It was like this, you know. But that's where that came from. You know, it was something that was always happening, you know. And it happens to you every day. Things you go to the grocery store and you feel like you're being priced out of, you know, food, you're being priced out of gas. I mean, it's like a violent, and that thing with money is violent, you know. So yeah, I mean, you live this violence every day, so you start expressing it. And even the portrait of you with the scarf, you know, that's as mentioning or alluding to Palestine, you know. And yes, because it was a horrible thing that happened, but also because you know very well that they are us. It's not like, you know, I'm listening to them because, I mean, I'm paying attention to this horror because I'm such a nice person. I'm paying attention to it because it's been my experience that, you know, you're next, that we're next. You know,
and just like Minnesota,
that what we're doing to them, we can do to you. You know, so that's where that's coming from. You know,
Can you talk about because you spoke about how boxing kind of got you to, right, considering the writers, right? But you created this body of work of boxers, right? And was it something, as you were working on the boxing paintings, you started to compare and think about writers? Like, how did you create that bridge? Like,
well, boxing's a brutal sport. It's how people made their living. You know, it's how people who are working class, poor, how they seem to live a violent life to get what they want, to get what they need. So it started that way. And that large boxing painting that I did was the one that's at Cranbrook now. That one was about you know, different ways of how we see that violence that we face every day. I mean, it's horrible for us, but growing up, it's been entertainment for other people, you know. So when you look at, the evening news. I'm like, this is terrible, but this is entertainment.
The way they can cut from one story to the next without even flinching emotionally, right?
The way that they can just report the story, you know, like this is you know, this is an extension of the 3 or 4 hours before the 11 o'clock news. You know, all these violent shows, revenge fantasies, and all this stuff. And then we come to the news, and there's almost no break, no separation. You know,
Constant.
so yeah, I mean, yeah, the me seeing writers as boxers, you know, is not a big leap for me, you know, because I mean, you see people get brutalized all the time, you know.
And that, can you talk about this figure in this piece? I mean, I imagine he was a part of SNCC. I can't remember this figure's name.
He was a freedom rider.
Yeah.
His name was Jim. Was it Jim? Jim Zwerg was his
Got
name.
it. Yeah.
And he went down south from Wisconsin. And if you, there was actually a documentary show on PBS called Eyes on the Prize, which you may never see again. But it was a great documentary. And it talked about the day he and John Lewis and all these people were beaten up. They were on a freedom ride, I think from maybe Alabama to Mississippi, and they were pulled off the bus and beaten by these, you know, random guys, you know. And he's one of the ones who caught the worst of it. But he stood with black people. He didn't have to take the beating, but he did. Yeah. So I included him, you know.
Yeah, I think there's this you know, even in thinking about the work, like the notion of allyship, right? Where I feel like we live in a society right now where there's so much separation, right? When in the 60s, right, and in the 70s, particularly the 60s, and especially in the civil rights movement, there was this notion of allyship. And a lot of times in the brutality, if there was a white person that allied, they would get the worst kind of, you know, analogy for being associated or helping black people. But I think the way that piece is made, right, the marks on it, the head tilt, and I know that's from an image, but it's just the way that you present it and the way that you made it carries a certain kind of weight to it. I think it's as much as all the other works. But I think it's interesting to think about this period and what's happening now and the sensibility that we've lost these revolutionary, actionable figures, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're gone, but there's a lot of terrorism from above.
Exactly.
So, but I don't, you know, I mean, people have to just, you know, get into the mindset of stepping forward and doing, because the feelings are there. You know, they don't, I mean, no one wants to be brutalized by their own government, you know. And, you know, they just have to step into it. You know, I mean, it could be the worst times ever, or it could be the beginning of the end of the worst times, you know.
Would it be safe to say, sorry I keep interjecting,
Oh, no, you're fine.
that maybe since then some of these figures have really transitioned into the arts, our filmmakers and our musicians and our, you know what I mean? It seems like, from my perspective as a white man, looking over at who is leading the black community in civil rights and social justice, it's filmmakers and, you know, so I wouldn't say that necessarily there's less. I think that they've just that's the voices that get amplified because of what you had mentioned, the silos that we're in. So whoever can perform good in this device in my hand, you know, it isn't the idea.
Yeah, and I think about also the way that you presented these works, right? They fit a certain kind of format. There's a certain kind of confrontation, but also intimacy to scale.
Yeah.
Right, and I think it's also the you know, even though all of them aren't, but they all present in a certain kind of, you know, prison, right? Like the frontal viewpoint, right? Which,
Okay.
in thinking about, yeah.
This is where it came from. This whole idea of you seeing one portrait after another, after another, after another. It came from that poem. It was by Etheridge Knight, who was a part of the Black Arts movement back in the 60s. And he wrote this beautiful poem called The Idea of Ancestry. And even though I'm saying that all of these things came from this political idea, the form of it, you know, came from that poem, you know, about a man in prison looking on his prison cell wall at 47 pictures, 47 black faces. And he says, my mother, my father, my grandmothers, one dead, grandfathers, both dead, uncles, aunts, brothers, sisters, cousins, nieces, and nephews. And he says that they stare across the space at me, lying flat on my bunk. This is the name of this poem is The Idea of Ancestry. The poet is Etheridge Knight. If you want to hear it, you can look it up on, you know, on
YouTube.
YouTube, yeah. And then this next part after that, you know, after they stare across the space at me, lying flat on my bunk, was the most crucial for me as an artist because it really focused what I wanted to do with these portraits. He says, I know their dark eyes, they know mine. I know their style, they know mine. I am all of them, they are all of me. So that's where it's coming from. And even though I'm saying it's political, and it is, but it's just, you know, for the idea of, I mean, I always wanted to do that too. 47 black faces, 47 pictures. I am all of them, they are all of me.
And I think it also, it grows out of your practice of, you know, you always talk about your aunt telling you to go in another room and paint and draw your family members.
My godmother told me that. She's, my godmother is Bill Banks. She's an artist. Her son is Michael Banks, who is a pioneer in Detroit techno music. And she, when I was very young, told me to look at everyone's faces, go into the next room and draw. And I did that. I did it, and I drew my father's cousin. And it was so exact that I fell out laughing because he was a funny looking guy. And when I made myself laugh, I knew, okay, I'm good at this.
Yeah, this is what I want to do.
I can do cartoons and I can do portraits, and they're like not always separate from each other, you know? And then she later on bought me paint and brushes and canvas, little small canvases, and told me to get to work. You know?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think, should we start with some questions maybe?
Yeah, if you want to. Yeah. Some questions.
Anybody have questions about the work for Richard? Comments?
I have so many. I'm just going to start with one and then I'll come back for seconds if nobody else. Or if there's time. First of all, this work is so powerful. You're talking about adhesives and you're talking about everything that's in you. And I feel this, I don't look at these as portraits anymore. I feel like they're in the room. These things are looking at you and they're here. I feel like they could walk right out these walls. They're very powerful. Especially the Malcolm X in the case there. I didn't even notice that one until you pointed it out. So just really powerful work. And I think it was the Horrors of War. Is that Goya?
Yep.
They had a traveling print show, and I saw it in this gallery like 20 years ago. And these are brutal images as well. But these are intimate and they're strong. Like these are powerful people. Those were people laid to waste. And these are people who've been brutalized and proud and fighting and moving forward. So, just totally powerful images. So I know there's no questions in that, but that's just my impression. I'm like a bit overwhelmed by it. It's amazing. So he taught you oil painting.
Yes.
And you talked about the schools you went to. And whenever I think about art and painting or just whatever art is, I think of it as some sort of like link to the past going into the future. And we all play our part. We all are a link in some way. So who were some of your either greatest influence as far as actual teachers and then, just the people in the world that you really drew from, if you have some?
It's a lot of them.
Yeah.
It's just a lot. When I was at CCS, I had Carl Owens, if you all knew him or remember him. He invited me and a couple of other students over to his house. And, we just drew together, And that's like a Detroit thing. They call it the Detroit way, which is, it's the same as each one teach one. That's what the Detroit way is, I had him, I had Lester Johnson. My first figure drawing teacher was Gilda Snowden, and it was like so opposite of what I had in high school. High school was so formal and safe and everything, and then I got to Gilda, and then Gilda just, it just immediately opened up a whole world, And then, people I met, like Hubert Massey. I met him in class. I met him, and there was another artist named Robert Tomlin, who kind of hidden away, but maybe we can coax him out to the public. Definitely Sophia Gardner too, and Harold Allen too, one of my favorite painters too. Detroit has so many great artists, so you can learn so much from everybody. You just have to listen. You gotta pay attention. So yes, it's a lot of people.
Sophia, you had a question?
Oh, I was just gonna ask him, we were talking earlier and I was asking who would be his Mount Rushmore of artists that he looked up to.
Velasquez, Chardin, who else? I do like Caravaggio. You're right about that, but I'm not like clinging to him like I used to. But it changes so much, but usually Velasquez and Chardin, because Velasquez is figurative and he's just so much into exactness of drawing, the ability to create space right there on the surface of that canvas. And just it's like magical. A friend of mine called him a magician. Just the ability to paint and create space within that canvas. And he painted with these like 6-foot brushes. So he was so much about detachment from the canvas and seeing long distances. And Chardin was so much about close-up, space, heavy, thick, rich paint. So was Lucien Freud too. You know, Lucien Freud didn't paint with 6-foot brushes, but he did paint with 500-watt light bulbs where you can like almost see through the skin into veins, you know. So, you know, people like that who can define, you know, space in paintings like that. I do love Lucien Freud, especially in like 60s, 70s, early 80s. It was like there was that one part where he was, one spot in time where he was just really, really great, you know? And then there was, you know, then came the time after that, as it does to many people, where you just, yeah, feel good, you know, not like the early days, but yeah, right. But it's hard to say which is my favorite, you know, or which are my favorites, because it keeps changing every day. And plus, I like jazz artists too, who I like. I imagine them as painters, like Johnny Hodges played with Duke Ellington, and he had such a beautiful, rich tone. And it was wonderful to listen to him. And I imagine, can I get a surface, can I get colors that aren't blaring, but are like, you know, earth colors, you know, and then a few steps beyond that mixed in, you know, can I make that work, you know? Thelonious Monk, how do you create contradictions in a painting, you know, like he could do with music, you know, or he could, to me, what I'm thinking about this song, Bag's Groove, where his solo came, and it was so completely different from everybody else's, where it would be, you know, where he would play this way, you know, a normal way, and then he'd hit this note that would be so wrong in anybody else's music, but it's perfect in his, you know. So, yeah, I mean, so whenever I'm thinking about who's my favorite painter, I'm thinking about them too. You know, because they're so, you know, they lend so much to color. It lends so much to, like, the art of painting for me. But, you know, as for the painters, Velázquez and Chardin and Soutine, I like Soutine. I like, because of the influence of my friends, Alex Katz, I like him. And then, you know, Masaccio, Piero della Francesca, you know.
No, my restaurant just has 4. You know?
Okay. It's all right.
I have a question, Richard. I'm currently doing my dissertation on creative industry, the creative industry, independent artists, and flow. And so I'm always concerned about, you know, what are the steps that you take to tap into your flow, so to speak, and maintain that is one question. I'll let you answer that first.
Okay, how do you mean?
What is it that kind of revs you up to get into the space to create so that you can flow in and produce? It's usually the world not messing with me that allows me to paint and draw. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Like, if it's not interrupting you,
Yeah.
and you're not like, worrying about this or that, you know. If you can get the world off your back, that's a good one. You know, when you can, I mean, like I learned this from my friend. I have a friend who's a sculptor named Shakaya Booker. She taught, I mean, like the first thing she teaches you is how to, though I haven't stuck to it, how to eat and how to get food off your back as a problem. If you can get all of these health things off your back, you can get the world off your back, then you can actually get into the flow, you know.
So it was like so tell
Because the desire to do it, to me, is always there. It never goes away. It's the rest of the world you got to deal with.
internal, both external.
Yeah.
My other question was, one, the pieces are beautiful, but of
Thank
course, you know, I follow your work anyway. But my question is, as you approach these pieces, are you working on a few at a time, or is your focus solely on the one and to getting that out your system?
Sometimes I work on the one, sometimes I work on two at a time.
Okay.
Now, I shouldn't say this, but I did, you know, I had this show coming up. And then, you know, and me being me, it didn't hit me like, oh my God, here comes the show, until, you know, January 1st. And then I start cranking them out, one after the other, you know. So, yeah, sometimes it goes like that too.
So that could be in addition to flow, is that the
Yeah,
urgency?
sometimes it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it works, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's that too, you know, like it can push you or inhibit you.
I love that.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Anybody? Yes.
Why aren't your eyes green and what's the blue line?
She's an Nkisi.
A what?
She is an Nkisi, which is a spiritual intermediary between humans and their ancestors. So I use it because I felt that she enriched people's lives, the people who loved her. That's Lena Horne.
Okay.
And also, the Nkisi helps me, just the African art, it helps me break up the monotony of the face, which can happen to me. You know, it allows me to cut into that regularness of Western art. And so that was just it was really nice glamour picture of Lena Horne, but then once I started going into the face with the green eyes and the line down the middle of her face, then I can really, you know, it transforms her. And so I use that. You know, like the one of Mario back there, it has a scarf over half of his face. So it's protest, but it helps break up the, you know, the regular portrait idea. Yes.
When you talk about music and art, it reminded me of synesthesia, where like Kandinsky, if he painted a color, you could hear a musical note, and if he heard music, he would see some art. Is that like?
He did?
Yeah. Sort of.
Okay.
Said he did.
I mean, okay.
You know, I heard
I gotta
a video
look that up.
downstairs of you, you know, the one that's downstairs, and you said that bebop was kind of what got you actually into being an artist.
Yeah, a lot of it came from having two really good abstract artists as teachers. I mean, they would teach you the figure and they would teach you these things, but then you look at their work and they could break it up. And with Gilda Snowden, she described a cityscape in terms of all of the textures that created it. You know, it wasn't just, you know, well, here are a lot of buildings and then there's perspective and then there's light on it. But she told us about bricks and concrete and glass and steel. And she would describe it as if it were an abstract painting. And then that, you know, that was right before I started listening to jazz. And at first I was listening to Count Basie. And then it led me into bebop, you know, where things were going going further than what we, you know, what I expected or what I knew before. So, yeah.
I'm inspired by what she just said. I know this one artist, his name's Ken Nordine. He's kind of a beatnik jazz guy. He's done some commercials and stuff. He did that one for the, I think, Mobil Gas Drive Your Engine Clean or something. He has a real deep voice. But he had an album called Colors. And each one is like, you know, a little minute. And he talks about the colors and it had like a little bit of music to it and he'll describe it. And it's pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Somebody check that out. Combining music.
The name is, again, the name is
Nordine.
Ken Nordine. Okay.
Word jazz, he does.
Yeah, we're jazz. Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
You know that. Oh,
Yeah.
right.
I'm a jazz head. He's from jazz head.
All right, any more questions? Are we good?
I'm gonna ask one kind of academic question. I noticed in most of the portraits, I think it seems like you've taken out all of the perspective and just, you know, I think that's why they're so present. Did you work on it that way? Because, you know, when I taught years ago, I used to tell my students, you know, that the perspective is the main thing. You know, I don't care whether you're doing abstract or representational, you know. But you just wanted to get the portrait down, or is that?
Just wanted the portrait.
Yeah, just
Because see, with me, if I go too academic, I can bog it down. I can bring it, I can weight it down with that. So if I can, if I do add anything like that, it has to be light enough for the thing to still breathe, because it wouldn't happen if I did it any other way.
Yeah.
You know?
I just know these are really like you said, these are really present, like they're just like they're there, and there's nothing holding them back.
Yeah, I love that.
Can I ask the what's next question?
What's coming next?
I feel like you're
What's next?
What you got coming up now?
Same thing, a little different, more family. That's what I'm working on now, family. One of my great aunt and my great grandmother, and one of my grandmother and my sister. You know, and if I can keep finding pictures of two of them together, I'll just keep going in that direction. You know,
Are they large scale?
they're the same size as these. So they actually are, wait a minute, they actually are bigger, because I need to fit both of them in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I'm working on. So we'll see how that turns out.
Thank you all so much for coming.